Tim Petrowich here for Dateline Marion, and our guest, as usual, is Marion head football coach Kerry Martin. And again, Coach, we get to talk about another Wildcat win to start things off. 38-14 victory over Centralia. And although it was a game where, Centralia got close a couple times, it still felt really like the Wildcats were pretty much in control the whole way.
Yeah, they scored on a couple of big plays, when they have that potential. And you and I talked about that, I think, that kind of a big play team, and they had the ability to get the ball to a fast receiver. They had a running back that was kind of a breakaway kind of player. And though we contained him, they did find a way in the end zone with a long pass and a short pass that they made some blocks on and made some moves. So that was the big thing, was that we limited the big plays to just two, and we were able to put up a pretty good amount of offense to have a nice cushion there, and got another field goal from Tyson Steckland, so that was a good thing. And again, that was an important play right before the half. So overall, we felt like it was a pretty good performance, outside of a couple of defensive mistakes there, but overall, pretty good night.
And you talk about a little bit of offense, and you said you didn't know this until after we talked after the game, but 565 yards in offense, and it came in a variety of ways.
Yeah, it did. I would have guessed much less than that. I would have said 375, maybe a good night, but not 565 yards worth. So it is a good output. Our kids did a nice job of making plays, and our line did a great job of controlling the line of scrimmage, and just overall a good performance. We ran the ball well, we passed the ball well, we had good balance, got a lot of different kids involved, and I thought our defense did a really good job of containing most of the ball game, and special teams had a pretty good night. So we talk about three phases needing to play well and be more consistent. I feel like for the third straight week we've done that.
It was kind of an ironic twist that as many times as the Wildcats have played Centralia over the years, and as many times as they've used that quarterback on the offense running the ball and doing things like that, the Javon Williams and the guys before that it was Marion and Boston who was able to get the yardage on that type of a play this week.
I hadn't thought about that. That's pretty good. Yeah, we did that on purpose. Get them back with a running quarterback. No, that's true. And it's not, running quarterbacks are a weapon, and I know we face a lot of running quarterbacks through the course of our season, and it's one of the reasons I think offenses are scoring more points is the evolution of the spread game. The spread defense is out, and then what used to be the guy that handed the ball off or threw the ball is now handing it off, throwing it, and running it. And I think that third element to the quarterback has changed the way teams can defend you, and it's changed the way offenses approach defenses. There's another guy that everybody has to account for. And so it's been good to have that weapon. Now, you don't always have that year in and year out, have that quarterback that's a run threat. I thought David Fletcher surprised some people last year at times with his ability to do that. Jake Schmidt, Isaac Baker, both very good run threats. Matt Lewis was not. Matt Brown was not as much. Probably could have been if I would have let him do it more. But it's funny when you get that kid, it does enable you to do some things offensively that maybe you haven't been able to do, and it brings another threat to the game. And so it's a good weapon to have, and Boston certainly has shown an ability to do that right now.
I want to talk about a couple of kids who we don't usually get talked about very much on the offensive side. Boston had his big night, and Drake had close to 90 yards rushing, but I thought on the running side, Welch had a really good game, running the ball close to 90 yards.
Yeah.
And then on the receiving side, Frankie Horner had a breakout night, I thought, too.
Yeah, I agree, and it's always good to see that because, you see them in practice and you know the impact they can have, and then to see them have the kind of game that's kind of a breakout game and become a real weapon, because teams are going to key on Dylan Cannell because he is our leading receiver, and teams are going to key on either Boston or Drake as our leading rushers, and it's great to have that other guy. Noah Mofield's had some good runs for us. Jake Welch continues to catch and run the ball well for us, and that having that other guy in the backfield, that other receiver, seeing Frankie Horner step up and make some big plays and make a catch and score and get more involved in the offense. Bryce Cabot has continued to make some plays, and just good to see him. We talk every week about this, but just we're better when we got a lot of guys involved and a lot of guys are contributing. And we like the fact that teams can't key on one person, and I think that helps us become a better, more well-rounded offense. And certainly helped account for the amount of yards we had this week.
You even got a couple of reasonably big plays. The long run from Boston for a touchdown, and then, the catch and run by Frankie that could have been like a 5-yard gain, and he broke free and turned it into a 35-yard touchdown.
We talk about big plays being a key, and successful teams have that's one of the big factors in being a successful team is big play potential. That's plays over 20 yards is how they measure that, and the fact that we didn't come into the season with that big play threat person. We've had a few more of those the last few weeks than we had earlier in the year, and I think that's a good sign that we do have some guys that can catch a short pass and score, or we can get a breakaway run from a quarterback or running back. And we had several runs this week over 20 yards and a few passes over 20 yards, and that's encouraging because we want to continue getting better and better as we approach these last 2 weeks with two teams that have very good records.
We've talked all season long about the way the offensive line is played. I saw something, I don't know if you noticed it as well, but I saw something Friday night that I thought was really kind of a telling sign, is that your guys that were running the ball, we ran for nearly 500 or 400 yards and just rushing, were running very well in traffic. And to me, that means they're trusting their linemen and finding those holes instead of trying to run for a big opening. They're hitting those small holes that are being made for them.
Yeah, that's trust. You're right. That is having faith, and that's part of becoming a good team, is that element of trust that you've got to have between running back and line, the line and your quarterback in the pocket, receivers trusting where the ball is thrown. When the quarterback, we teach our quarterback to throw to a certain shoulder away from the nearest defender so that they know which way to turn upfield. And there's a lot of trust that goes into sports and our game of football, and when it makes players maybe a step faster, maybe a step better than our game. That's a big deal. One step can be the difference between a 5-yard completion and a 50-yard completion, just one step. And it is a game of inches, and that's why one step can matter so much. So I think you're right. The fact they're hitting the holes where they're designed to be hit and trusting that the hole will be there is a big deal.
So let's talk about Carbondale, the game this week. It's homecoming, a lot of excitement. There'll be lots of different classes here for class reunions. Of course, all the fanfare that goes with homecoming week at the school. And usually when it's Carbondale, you're thinking, well, Carbondale, we have to worry about the rivalry aspect. But now you've not only got the rivalry aspect, but this is an important game for right now you're playing for second place in the conference, hoping that Althoff can knock off Cahokia. But then you're also playing for that possible home field in the playoffs, or in your case, to guarantee a playoff spot.
Yeah, this is no time to look past anybody. We got two teams coming up. Carbondale first with a 6-1 record and had a great year. Their only loss is to Cahokia, which is a very good football team. Coach Lee has done a great job building that program, gone through some rough spots like I did when I came here, and he's getting some reward now for his efforts. So I'm impressed. They've done a great job with their offense. They continue to play good physical defense. They're very athletic. They have really put things together this season. And so we have a lot of work cut out for us in this ball game. We're going to have to play really well in all three phases. Stop the big plays. Our quarterback's a special player. He can scramble. He's got a great arm, an accurate arm. Good athletes out there catching the ball. Just a well-rounded, good football team, and a team that we know is going to take a really big effort from us. So we're hoping that homecoming and senior night and playoff ramifications can be the motivators we need to help, come to a victory in this game. I think playing at home, we're glad we've got this particular Carbondale team at home. So it ought to be a great matchup, ought to be a great game for our fans.
People can look at this a couple different ways, and one being they'll say, yeah, they struggle with Centralia, they struggle with Althoff, they struggle with Waterloo that hasn't won a game. But then the other way you look at it is they're 6-1.
Yeah. And then
think back early in the season when they're down by like 3 or 4 touchdowns against Granite City at halftime, and come back and win that game. So it's one of those, we talked about football being strange this year, and it's one of those games where strange things could happen.
Absolutely. And you have to be prepared for whatever is your best your opponent can bring you. And I think they'll play a really strong game against us. It is a rivalry game. It is, as you said, to keep conference hopes alive, and hoping for an upset from Althoff. But you know, it's also about getting a chance to. They're right now. They're thinking they're a game away from a playoff home game. I mean, that's a big deal. They're 6-1, could be 7-1, and almost guaranteeing a home playoff game. And they know they've got Harrisburg at the end of the schedule, who's a little down this year. They're looking. They beat Marion. They got an 8-1 season and a home playoff game. So we're looking at a loss here, changing our playoff situation. So there's a lot on the line here besides just homecoming and senior night. There's a lot of things on the table, and I'm sure both teams are excited to play this game. And if both teams had bad records, it's still a rivalry game between Carbondale and Marion. So there's a lot on the line. It's exciting. It's a lot of fun to be a part of a game with this much ramifications to it this late in the year. You know, we feel very fortunate to be in this situation. We're playing in a big game that matters late in the year. That's exciting.
And you talked about their quarterback, Jakiba Burley, who is now in his third year as a starter.
Right.
So we've watched, you know, his first year he started, he struggled, had some problems. Second year he was starting to come into his own a little bit, didn't have a whole lot around him. Now that this team has come together, he's really taken on that role as a leader of this team.
I agree, and he's a handful. You know, we talked about him, you know, with our kids yesterday and what a weapon he is. And our kids know that. I mean, they know the Carbondale kids. Unlike a lot of people we play, where you know, we don't know the players like we do the Carbondale.
Well, they're not
kids.
3.5 hours away.
That's right. Or the Centralia kids. We know these local players a little better, and so our kids know how good he can be and how talented they are. And so we realize we've got a lot of work to do, and going to take a really good game plan. But I thank goodness our defense has been playing better, and hopefully they can continue to limit the big plays of our opponents and give us a chance to get some points on the board and hopefully get a win here at home.
And what we really need you not to do is like the basketball team did twice last year, fall behind by 15 points in the first quarter and then have to come back and win late.
Yeah, well, whatever it takes, but we'd rather not do that to get a win. But yeah, I hope we don't. You know, we've been starting a little faster lately, which is good. It's good for me and it's good for my well-being to get off to a good start instead of have to come back every time. But you know, we continue to show improvement, and that's what we're asking them. We're continue to show consistency, and we're looking for that every week. And if we're going to build to have a playoff team and to have a chance at a playoff run, we've got to get better this week and also week 9. We can't take any steps back.
And you've done a pretty good job in the last few weeks defensively of sticking on your assignments. I know there's been a couple of hiccups here and there, but for the most part, the players have stuck to their assignments and not chased rabbits and done things they're not supposed to do.
Well, and that's again, we talked about earlier in the interview about the faith in yourself and faith in your teammates, but it's also faith in your coaches, trusting what your coach is teaching and trusting that those assignments and those keys and those little nuances of the defensive side of the ball that you're asked to trust and believe in are real, you know, and knowing that we're calling this because of this reason. You got to trust that's the right call and execute your assignment. So there's a lot of faith involved in football, and it requires it player to player and coach to player and player to coach. And hopefully we're developing that. And I think, as I said before, that can be the difference between just being a step faster on both sides of the ball. And a step faster in football is a lot.
Final home game of the regular season,
Yep.
Senior night, homecoming night, a lot of big bells and whistles, but the biggest bell and whistle that you like to see is what usually comes out, and that's a big fan base.
Yeah, you know, we have there's no place like Marion High School, and playing a home game here is special, and we've played all over Illinois, and we've played in Tennessee and Kentucky and Missouri even, and I've not seen an atmosphere yet that's any better than what we produce here, and sometimes I think it's so dang good it gets our opponents fired up. So, but I love it. I love to play here. We love homecoming, a chance for people who've not been home in a while to come back and watch the Wildcats play, and we feel a sense of responsibility to put on a good show for everybody that's here. And as I said, we're excited about the challenge that Carbondale brings. It's not a surprise to me that they've improved. I knew when they hired Coach Lee they were going to get better, just a matter of time, because he's had a great resume of success at Chester, and so we're excited about the challenge they're going to bring, and hopefully we can rise and meet that challenge and get better as a football team and get a win.
Yes, the last question, health-wise, we've been waiting on Schmid to get healthy. Is he close?
He's probably out for the season.
Okay.
He's probably out for the season. The MRI did not come back with the results that we wanted, so we've lost 2 players probably for the year. We've got some other guys that are a little banged up. It should be fine for Friday, so we should be close to full strength on Friday.
All right. Carbondale, Marion here at Wildcat Stadium. Oh, you got a shout out,
I have
don't
a
you?
shout
You told
out.
me. I'm sorry.
I have a shout out. You know, one of the unsung heroes of our sideline. Got all these coordinators and play callers, but you got to give a shout out to the get back coach.
Oh yeah.
The get back coach is that coach that gets the coaches back so we don't get a penalty. And Coach Nathan Butler, he's a great young coach, but more than that, he's a really good get back coach on Friday night. And so it's an unsung job. It's a thankless job.
Oh,
nobody wants to be told to get back. So it's not a popular
Well,
job.
but you know, nobody wants to. None of the coaches want to see that flag and the sideline warning either. You know, that's.
So yeah, we're going to give him a shout out today, Coach Nathan Butler, get back coach, as well as being a really good young football coach in our program. Awesome job. So I hope he keeps it up.
All right, there you go. Marion and Carbondale this Friday night at Wildcat Stadium, 7 o'clock kickoff. That's Marion head coach Kerry Martin for Dateline Marion. I'm Tim Petrowich.